Welcome to our drive-in theater. We have a wonderful evening's entertainment lined up for you, one that will provide several hours of pleasurable relaxation and diversion for you and your family. Did you fail to dress up for tonight's show? No tie, an old shirt and slacks, a house dress? Well, don't give it a thought. We're glad you came as you are.
It's Driveway Drive-In with your hosts, Adam and Paul. Welcome to the Monster Home.
Our masters!
What do these things want, and why are they here?
You still don't get it, do you, boy?
They have recruited the rich and the powerful.
They're running the whole show.
Wake up! They're all about you, all around you. Blinded us to the truth.
Take a look. They are safe, as long as they are not discovered.
I don't know what they are or where they came from, but we gotta stop them.
Stay away from me.
What these are?
They have us. Look at them, they're everywhere. Our owners.
We have no other choice.
I don't like this one bit.
Leave it alone, man. It ain't none of my business, ain't none of yours. We have been lulled into a trance.
Listen to what I'm saying to you. We're in trouble. The whole world's in trouble.
Control us.
You're sending some kind of signals out of TV sets.
I've got one that can see.
Mama don't like tattletale.
Now we start spilling some blood.
Let's go!
Push a button.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick and I'm all out of bubblegum.
Welcome to Driveway Drive-In. I'm your host, Paul.
Hi, I'm Adam.
And we are here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, but we're all out of bubblegum.
We definitely are.
Yeah, there's no bubblegum to be found anywhere around here.
I checked. It's one of these movies that both of us love.
Yeah, it's
not an obscure film, and it's not one where one of us loves it and one of us hates it. We both love it.
We do.
You know, it's a great genre film.
So let's start with when I was a kid, I remember seeing the poster, and I remember seeing Roddy Piper on it, and I knew Roddy Piper as a wrestler.
Right.
And as one of the most evil wrestlers of all time.
And I think it's important when you talk about this movie, especially for people that haven't seen it for the first time, to talk about casting first, like you said. And what an odd choice. Yeah. Roddy Piper, the wrestling WWF wrestler, the guy who smashed the coconut over...
Tito Santana.
No. Superfly, Jimmy Snuka.
Oh, it was Superfly, Jimmy Snuka.
He smashed the coconut over Superfly, Jimmy Snuka. He was the most hated man in America.
He was. And at the time for the WWF, there weren't a lot of let's say, ethnic bad guys?
I see where you're going with that. If you were a bad guy in the WWF, essentially that meant you were born in another country. You were the Iron Sheik, or you were Nikolai Volkov, or you were, take your pick. You were an American.
Yeah.
And Roddy, he's Canadian, but, he played a Scot, and he was neither. But that never ever was the gist of his portrayal. He was just a loudmouth, braggart, obnoxious,
and
a-hole.
Yeah, he was. I mean, he would start fights with everybody, and he would get other people to start fights with their teammates.
Right. I mean, I think that everybody had a friend like him. Growing up, they got you in trouble, but they
he's the guy.
But they were a lot of fun. He was just it got to the point where, like, what he said on the microphone actually made up for his evil deeds. You couldn't help but root for the guy because he was so freaking hilarious.
Yeah.
Some of the things that he said. But, he was Hulk Hogan's first nemesis, and prior to Andre the Giant.
Yeah.
And Andre the Giant, of course, was credible, 8 foot tall, whatever. How do you get over on Hulk Hogan when you're, 5 inches shorter than him? Well, he somehow did it, and that was through the gift of gab, just what he said on the microphone.
Yeah.
He just made everybody hate him when he talked. He was just hilarious, and Roddy was a wrestling legend even before he started making movies. And you got to think about.
Yeah, I mean, WrestleMania 1 was Hulk Hogan versus Roddy Piper.
Well, what movies did Hulk Hogan is universally recognized as what? The most popular wrestler of all time? What movies did he make? You got Suburban Commando.
And No Holds Barred. And Mr.
Like I'm
Nanny.
missing something.
Mr. Nanny.
And Mr. Nanny, right.
Yeah.
And they're all sort of funny because Hulk Hogan's sort of funny. Like, why did they, they couldn't give him a serious role because look at Hulk Hogan.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are you going to cast Hulk Hogan as? A dog catcher?
I don't know. Maybe like
I don't even know why I said that. But yeah, it's just silly. But I mean, like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson currently is like the reigning box office superstar, right? And that'll probably never be surpassed.
It won't be, but that was such a fluke too, because wrestlers were not like wrestling was popular, but it wasn't.
Wrestling was like
it was popular
viewed as like the National Enquirer of like entertainment.
Yeah, I mean,
nobody talked about it. Nobody was like glorifying it. That's for sure.
Yeah, it wasn't really something your parents were proud of that you were into.
No, you got yelled at.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm just going to say that prior to like The Rock, this is like the greatest performance of a professional wrestler in a film. And, I still put it up there, Yeah. I mean, is The Rock more entertaining? Possibly.
Yeah, probably.
But is like any of the movies he's been in better than They Live?
No.
Like Fast and the Furious 36? Is that better than They Live? Is that the one when he and Jason Statham find their long lost brother? What happens in that one?
Well, which one are you talking about?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. They're all anyway. Let's continue on to the movie.
It's a sore spot between us because one of us does like the Fast and the Furious.
But
movies.
you do understand what I'm saying. Like Roddy's portrayal in this movie is the best professional wrestler. Like acting, just acting alone.
Yeah, especially
not showing up as a hired gun, not showing up as muscle.
And like not even showing up as a star, but actually as somebody there to serve the narrative.
Right.
The first part of the movie, he plays a very, how would you describe him?
Very somber,
like a John Wayne character.
John Wayne, strong but silent type.
Yeah.
Which is completely against type if you've ever seen him in the WWF.
It's 100% against type. And you don't start to see that Roddy fun until he, puts on the glasses and sees what's going on with the world.
Right.
I think right here is a good point. I'm going to play Roddy Piper has just discovered the glasses and goes into a grocery store and decides to confront one of the alien invaders.
It's a new morning in America. Fresh, vital. The old cynicism is gone. We have faith in our leaders. We're optimistic as to what becomes of it all. It really boils down to our ability to accept. We don't need pessimism. There are no limits.
It figures it would be something like this.
Excuse me.
Just survive.
You know, you look like your head fell on the cheese dip back in 1957. You're okay. This one, real fucking ugly. Oh. You see, I take these glasses off. She looks like a regular person, doesn't she, huh? Put them back on. Formaldehyde face. That's what we got.
That's enough out of you. You get out or I call the cops.
Call the cops? You know what you need? You need a Brazilian plastic surgeon.
I've got one that can see.
He's a tall Caucasian male, doesn't appear armed, wearing sunglasses.
I don't like this one bit. Not one bit.
Formaldehyde face. Did you use that one before?
No, but I have to say I'm gonna probably put that in my everyday vernacular.
Agreed. That's a good one. But so anyway, that's the late great Roddy Piper doing what he does best, which is just talking crap on people. Oh, I had to censor myself. But you know, I guess we got to backtrack just a tiny bit here.
So yeah, let's get into the story. They Live is a science fiction epic directed by John Carpenter. It involves an alien plot to steal the Earth's resources by mass hypnosis.
Or mass capitalism, if you think about it.
Yeah. It's the opposite of the anti-communist Red Scare film in a lot of ways. It's the, I guess, anti-capitalist film. But
if you're super sensitive about politics, you might not want to watch this movie if you haven't seen it in a while.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it, I mean, it's a very ahead of its time movie.
I'd say so.
Yeah,
it predicted a lot of things almost.
Yeah, you can definitely say that, and the film basically says that the aliens control everything, the whole world. And
like the occupation has already started, like the invasion has occurred overnight. Nobody even realized it. And the thing that I find interesting about that, and that's never really spelled out in the movie itself, you never know when the invasion occurred, how long they've occupied the Earth, how long they've been in command of humanity. It's just all kind of like left to your interpretation, which I kind of think is interesting.
Yeah, and like how they managed to get everything switched over, overnight to do so. But that's not really a question this movie needs to answer.
It doesn't even matter, really, in the long
because the movie is about someone becoming aware of the plot and the human co-conspirators that have enriched themselves through assisting the aliens.
So the movie starts off, Roddy Piper is a homeless man. I guess he's homeless.
Yeah, he's homeless.
Got the backpack and he's got the homeless outfit. He's got the leather jacket
and the flannel shirt in Los Angeles.
Yeah, he's got the Paul Bunyan attire, which he never changes out of. But he's, the story is he's out of work. He's looking for work.
Yeah,
and he goes to the big city with a backpack full of tools to try to find some work.
He picks up a job at
construction,
and he meets name's escaping me.
Keith David is Childs. Childs. I'm sorry, that's the thing. But he was Keith David. I can't remember the name of what his name. The character is in this movie. He's basically just Childs again.
Yeah, he kind of is Childs again. But
it's Keith David.
Yeah, Childs shows him to a homeless camp where
if you're listening to the show, you know who Keith David is.
Yes. Okay.
And that's his friend, and that's Roddy's only friend, basically, in the entire movie.
Oh, yes. And then he doesn't want to be friends with him after Roddy puts on the glasses and goes on his rampage.
Right. One thing that did strike out to, was kind of, I don't know, stuck out like a sore thumb in this film. The unemployment issue, the homelessness.
Yeah, it seems very out of place.
In the 80s? An 80s movie? Like, actually recognizing...
1988, at the end of Ronald Reagan's second term.
Doesn't that seem odd?
It does, and the Cold War's over.
Right.
And the Berlin Wall had fallen, and the movie kind of uses this mass hypnosis to make people more consumer-centered, more prosperity, wealth-centered, and
right.
And that's how the human co-conspirators come to work with the alien co-conspirators.
And our friend Roddy, who I don't know if he's actually ever given a name in this movie. The cast called him like Nanu, like Nanu, or I don't know. I can't remember anyone in this movie actually referring to him by name.
No.
So that might just be a thing. But anyway, his friend Keith David takes him to the homeless person's camp, which is like in the middle of downtown. I don't know. What city did we decide this was? L.A.?
Yeah, it's definitely L.A.
I guess it's L.A. But it's like the way this movie portrays a homeless person's camp doesn't seem like that. It's that bad. I mean, I've had worse tailgating at Heinz Field. You just go in. I mean, there's tables of food. Like, people will give you a seat. Everyone's very accommodating. The only thing that was missing was like the liquor table and the cornhole. Everything in this camp, I mean, I'd live there if I could.
Well, they had the television, and there's a plot that
But the recliners, everybody had a recliner.
Yeah,
everyone. Nobody was sitting on a bucket or like beach furniture.
Yeah.
Everyone had a freaking full-on recliner from like IKEA. They were the most comfortable bunch of homeless people I've ever seen.
Yeah, and probably the cleanest too.
They're pretty clean.
Yes. But the people in this tent city, there's a church outside of it, and they're broadcasting.
It was like what suburban people think that a refugee camp is like.
Yeah, probably.
Oh my God. They have to sit in a recliner?
I threw that recliner out.
Yeah, like, you know,
but
it was like roughing it. I've roughed anyway, continue.
All right. So there's a church. They're providing a service for they're providing like a pirate signal to take over the news to let people know what's going on with the world. So, and whenever they come on, everyone had a headache.
Right.
So, and people would complain that they were talking, during a show. And
they'd be watching the TV and they would get the fuzzy. Remember, like when you were a kid and do you ever have a TV in your room?
Yeah.
And you were trying to get channels you couldn't get, and you got the fuzzy.
Yeah.
The fuzzy channel. I was able to get Cinemax for like a whole month.
Yeah.
Just tying those rabbit ears together. It was kind of like that. It was like the fuzzy. But they would come in and out, and they would be telling you, that the, about the end of the world.
Yes. And I think that's probably a good clip to play right now, so let me go ahead and pull that up.
You're ready for beautiful, natural-looking, easy-to-apply nails.
Our impulses are being redirected. We are living in an artificially induced state of consciousness that resembles sleep. The poor and the underclass are growing. Racial justice and human rights are non-existent. They have created a repressive society, and we are their unwitting accomplices. They are dismantling the sleeping middle class. More and more people are becoming poor. Their intention to rule rests with the annihilation of consciousness. We have been lulled into a trance. They have made us indifferent to ourselves, to others. We are focused only on our own gain. Please understand, they are safe as long as they are not discovered. That is their primary method of survival. Keep us asleep, keep us selfish, keep us sedated. We are their cattle. We are being bred for slavery. The revolution. Break their signal. Our transmitter is not powerful enough. The signal must be shut off at the source.
So yeah, this guy just basically did the first Facebook political post on TV. So he sent out a message, and you kind of see the philosophy behind John Carpenter. And in a lot of ways, I feel like this might be Carpenter's Dawn of the Dead in terms of its heavy-handed satire.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And kind of a rejection of consumerism.
Right. Anyway, yeah, it's a powerful scene because, you know, what you can't see through what we just showed you audibly, while the man is speaking, this Dom DeLuise looking actor, talking about
the priest.
The blind priest is on the sidelines mouthing his words, which is what gives Roddy his first indication that something is up with the church.
Yeah,
and that's a pretty powerful scene. I did want to just throw one thing in there, because one thing about John Carpenter that I always loved is just that his appreciation for the older horror films. And he always shows reverence to movies that, like, I don't know, got him inspired, I guess you would say.
Yeah,
in this
like
film,
in Halloween, the kids are watching The Thing from Another World, and they're watching Forbidden Planet.
Exactly. And in this one, in the homeless people camp, they're watching the Monolith Monsters, which is a really obscure film about, you know, rocks, killer rocks, essentially. But, you know, he throws it in there as just as a homage, I guess you would say. I just thought that was cool.
And, you know, John Carpenter was interviewed and talked about how he grew up watching Don Siegel's Invasion of the Body Snatchers. In a lot of ways, this kind of feels that way. And he's just doing a post-alien invasion, whereas some people are made to serve and some people are made to gain.
So soon after this speech is given on the television, our character Roddy, our main character Roddy, gets super curious and investigates in the church. That's when he finds the hidden cache of sunglasses, which ultimately lead you to be able to see, you know, your alien overlords, essentially, and the propaganda that they've been using to control your life. I'm reaching here, Paul. Any thoughts on him finding the sunglasses in the church? Is there any symbolism there?
Well, I think the idea is it might have been a jab at religion.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was on full assault mode during this film.
Yeah, it's pretty overt, but in this movie, he's talking about satirical, and the big thing with Reagan and the talk of the moral majority was a big part of Reagan's campaign, and working with groups like the Christian Coalition and other groups, you have a really you kind of see like how the prosperity theology, I guess is what it's called, is a stark contrast to older Christian faiths.
Not long after he discovers these sunglasses, they find them. The aliens, whatever you want to call them. But here, it's so uncomfortably recognized as the police force here. And the police surround the camp and basically demolish everything as they try to look for the church and what the church holds. They're basically just a tidal wave of destruction that just sweeps through this camp, almost like a forest fire.
Yeah, they bring bulldozers out to bulldoze it down,
and there's no individualism. They're just portrayed as like this evil wave of destruction.
Yeah, it was essentially like the Independence Day blowing up the White House and scene, or in any alien invasion scene. But in this case, it was the homeless resort that you were referring to earlier.
So Roddy, and after this onslaught, Roddy ends up hooking up with some of the, survivors from the camp, and they end up holding up in some safe house somewhere. And the next day, they're kind of patrolling the landscape the next day. It was very reminiscent of, Pittsburgh after a Kenny Chesney concert. There's just trash everywhere. Everything's freaking destroyed.
Yeah.
And they're just trying to, see what they can make heads or tails of. At this point, this is when, Roddy gets a little proactive. He takes the box of sunglasses. He realized, I guess, am I getting ahead of myself?
No.
When does he realize that the sunglasses are what? That's when he does his little walk around the city, isn't it?
Yeah, that's when he does the walk around the city. Now he goes in there to find out what they were smuggling, because he just sees the box and the hidden cash.
So he's not really at that point even. He doesn't understand what he has.
Yeah, he doesn't. And then when he opens up the box, he's going through the sunglasses thinking that there's something
more important than it actually is.
More important than a pair of sunglasses.
Right.
And he puts them on, and then he sees the invasion and the subliminal messages, the obey signs everywhere.
I guess we should actually, focus some of our attention on those scenes, because they are the scenes that most people think of when they think of this movie.
Yeah.
Even if you don't know the movie, you've probably already seen, some of the highlights of it, just from the
consume signs, marry and reproduce. All the money says this is your God on it.
It's essentially, you wear the sunglasses, and it what you see, it cuts into, the flashy message that they're trying to tell you, and it gets right to the brass tacks. And, it's things like consume, marry, and reproduce, obey, submit, no independent thought, stay asleep.
Don't question authority.
I mean, Facebook conspirators would have a field day with this movie nowadays, wouldn't they?
Yeah, pretty much.
It was made for them. So after he has this kind of epiphany about these sunglasses, he tries to get the rest of the sunglasses, and he wants to hide them.
Yeah.
I think he hides them in a dumpster or something.
Trash can.
Yeah, he hides them. I don't know.
He hides them in a trash can and then goes on a rampage.
Trying to find someone just to wear these damn glasses. That seems to be. He had such a hard time finding a volunteer to wear these things, and he gets his friend Keith David.
Yeah, and they have a very long fight, and the fight goes from "all right, cool" to "oh my god, what are they doing?" to "what am I watching?"
It's excessive.
To,
and I mean that in all the right ways.
This is freaking awesome.
It shouldn't be in a movie like this. It goes on for way, way too long because it doesn't really establish anything about the characters. The only reason it's in the movie, uncut the way that it is because John Carpenter watched it and said, "That's awesome."
Yes.
And I'm not going to cut a minute of that.
Yeah.
I put Roddy Piper in this movie for a reason.
Yeah.
And this is it.
This is it. He's like, we got to have a fight scene. And when asked if he thought he should shorten it, he said, F no. F no.
And this goes, watching this fight scene again, I mean, I've seen this movie a bunch of times, but I always have this question. I'm a wrestling fan, as are you.
Yes.
Right? How much does actual professional wrestling, how would that apply to an actual street fight?
I don't know. I mean,
in this film, right?
Well, he does do that clothesline move on the cops.
No, not just clotheslining people. During the fight with Keith David, he gives him a suplex. Have it written down. Suplex, a back body drop, and a body slam.
Oh, and a pile driver.
And did he? That would kill someone.
Yeah.
So then I'm starting to think of like when I was a kid and we were wrestling in our backyard, like giving my friends the figure four or the DDT. Can you imagine getting in a bar fight and trying to get the guy who just called you a bitch for whatever reason, trying to get him in the figure four? Like,
well, no, because I would do the razor's edge.
That would. That would just completely take him out of the game.
Yeah. If you're gonna go big, like with WWF.
This
moves.
is
you gotta do the
thing, though.
the razor's edge.
Any wrestler, if you ever see some of the Rock's early movies, he's always giving somebody the rock bottom.
Yeah,
which is that kind of like I hug you to the side and then slam you down move.
Yeah,
it could only work in a wrestling ring.
Yeah,
like not in an actual fight. I don't know. I would just like. Here's the thing, right? I went to a public school. I saw my share of fights. I've been in my share of fights. I'd like to see some people start using the sharpshooter more.
Yeah, the sharpshooter would be a good one.
And let them tap out, for crying out loud.
Yeah, or even the Macho Man flying elbow.
That would be, what would you like on top of a car?
Yeah.
All right. So, anyways, so the fight goes on forever, almost as long as we were just talking about wrestling moves, and
longer.
I mean, longer even. And then eventually, Keith David
taps out
and is forced to wear the glasses, and he sees what Roddy Piper sees. And from this moment forward, these two guys, they're Rocky and Apollo. They are best friends. They are inseparable. They are brothers.
They're Adam and Paul.
They're Adam and Paul. And, you know, so I guess it's earned with that vicious fight.
Yeah, like, I don't know. It's just like, would I be like wrapping my arm around?
Yeah, probably not. Somebody just tried to kill you or ram your head through a dumpster.
And they smashed his head through like a rear windshield.
Yeah. And suddenly you're best friends. I mean, I guess stranger things have happened, but
I don't know. It could be like a concussion thing.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe. All right, so that kind of fast forwards us to that part in the movie.
All right.
I'm giving you a choice. Either put on these glasses or start eating that trash can.
But yeah, putting on a pair of sunglasses is apparently a license to get the Roddy Piper character almost killed. Because, you know, earlier in the film, he takes a hostage and he wants her to put on the glasses. And this is the Meg Foster character, Holly.
Right.
And she did have a name. And but the Meg Foster character also attempts to murder Roddy Piper after being asked to wear the glasses. So she smashes a bottle over his head and pushes him out a window.
Right. Yeah, that's when he was trying to find his way from
the bank massacre.
Yeah, the bank massacre. Right.
Yeah.
Right. There was no Lyft or Uber back then, so you had to basically take hostage.
Yeah, pretty much.
And in this case, it was Meg Foster, which I don't know. She has like reptilian eyes.
She does.
Do you ever see V, like the series?
Yeah. You cannot not look at her eyes.
Her eyes are just like hypnotic, but not like in a good way.
Yeah, they're almost terrifying.
Like you don't want to look at them.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, great actress.
I kind of wish she would have put the glasses on in the movie.
Kept them on?
And kept them on. You know.
That would have worked.
Yeah. So, all right.
So anyway, after Roddy has suffered enough, and then he meets up with his friend Keith David, they eventually start running into remnants of the original camp, right?
Yes.
That was demolished by the police and the aliens, and it's like this underground revolution. You know, they're very, very much underground. It's like a basement type area.
Yeah, they're in like a dilapidated.
Right, and everyone's running around, and they're all sitting at the tables, and it kind of seems at times like it's like a disorganized, like bingo party.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing official really going on, aside from the people standing and talking. But there is a good, cool section where they upgrade the contacts.
Yeah.
You know, like a good RPG, our characters have upgraded.
Yeah, they get the contacts so they can see who is an alien and who's a human. And the Meg Foster character shows up, and she says that the cable station is clear.
Right.
The building is raided by the police, and they're trapped in a corner, and the Rolex is dropped that opens the portal.
Right. And like I had mentioned that when we were watching the movie. Do you think that was I mean, all right, in this movie, several aliens, they activate a device on their watch, and it turns into a portal, and they disappear. And the watch is very fancy, gold plated, what have you. Do you think that was supposed to be a Rolex? Is that like a jab at the, the upper class that have Rolexes?
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. And I mean, I'm playing with my watch right now, which I have a smartwatch that I talk into like an alien.
So when they drop into the portal, right, and they're in the alien facility.
Yes.
Which basically just looks like it's an underground.
It looks like the halls behind stores in a mall.
Right. And then they have the fancy rooms. But And they have like normal looking human security guards. And one of them, you saw it too. It was like an e-reader. I don't know if that's what it's called, but that device in Ghostbusters.
The PKE reader.
PKE reader, right? One of the security guards has that. He's holding it for some unknown reason.
Yeah, and that's where that's an important scene too, just because he runs into his former boss at the construction site.
Yeah,
who assumes that he's joined the human traders,
right?
And kind of gives them a tour and an overview of the plan.
Yeah. This entire time, Roddy and Keith David, for lack of a character name, are wandering around this facility with their arms. They have guns.
Yeah, they have guns.
Now, Keith David has this like weird gray tip on the end of his gun. Did you notice that?
Yeah, the silver tip.
Look, I'm not a gun guy, so that might be a thing. But that also kind of stuck out to me as like, okay, maybe they painted the red part on the end of like a Fisher-Price gun.
Yeah. Well, they didn't have red parts in 1988.
Oh, I guess not.
No.
I've never seen like any gun. I could be completely wrong with just a gray tip on the end.
Yeah, it seems kind of odd because there's no like cut in the steel on the gun.
Yeah.
But whatever. I mean, it's a minor.
And this is right when Roddy and Keith, find the NWO Eyes Wide Shut party with all the elite aliens and humans.
Yes.
And
here's a quick clip of their plot.
What's wrong with having it good for a change? And they're going to let us have it good if we just help them. They're going to leave us alone. Let us make some money. You can have a little taste of that good life, too. Now, I know you want it. Hell, everybody does.
You do it to your own kind.
What's the threat? We all sell out every day. Might as well be on the winning team. See you, boys.
Let's go!
Is this the 2-minute break or the 30-second break?
I think it's the 30-second break.
They dropped 12. I guess we must be running long.
I think so.
So this kind of sets up the end of the film. And because there's some characters that turn out to be betrayers, we're going to kind of gloss over the end sequence.
We've decided we're not going to go into spoiler territory with this one.
Yeah, because it is a well-known movie among genre fans like ourselves. But in the case that you haven't seen it and you're curious about it, I kind of don't want to give away who's a villain and who's not. So yeah, that kind of wraps that up. He makes his way to the roof for the final showdown.
It's a very Die Hard-esque.
Very Die Hard-esque.
And there's helicopters and people are shooting and it's very exciting.
Explosions.
But that's all we can tell you.
That's all we can tell you.
Well,
because I'm being a jerk.
No, it's just we love this movie so much that we would hate to spoil. It's not like some of the other movies where, like, okay, it was made 80 years ago, and if you haven't seen it, you probably don't care. This one has so much relevance today, and if you haven't seen it,
Or
we
haven't
don't
seen it in a
want
while.
to tell you who is bad and who is good and whatnot. We just don't want to spoil it for you.
Yes. So,
did you know, Paul, that Jeff Amato is one guy? He played every alien in this movie. Every alien. And one thing we didn't do is really describe what these aliens look like.
So they kind of look like the Metaluna mutant from This Island Earth, only without the giant brain part or the giant muscles.
I wrote some, going through my notes, I said they have frostbite faces.
Yeah, they have like a blue skin that has like exposed muscles.
So without the sunglasses, they're just like a normal person. But when you put the glasses on, suddenly they have these giant shiny eyes and their faces are like blue and red, almost like their skin was ripped off.
Yeah.
But suspiciously enough, they keep the human hair.
Yeah.
Which is weird. Is that a wig? Or are these aliens that look so much different? Do they still have human hair? It's odd.
Yeah, because there is a scene where he looks into a high-end salon, and there are aliens getting their hair cut. So
are they cutting the wig?
Are they cutting the wig?
That must be a good wig.
Yeah, or do they have hair? Or do they have the cure to baldness?
Right.
And they're just keeping it for themselves.
Talk about $1 billion industry right there.
Yeah, right there you go.
But anyway, I guess what do you want to do? Wrap this up with our final thoughts?
Yeah, so all
right, we're going to do a lot of Carpenter films, I'm sure, right?
Yes.
They're all great. They're all worthy of a show of themselves. But let's try to do top 5. And I know this is difficult.
Okay.
And I'm not even going to ask what the other films are. But I am going to ask where you put this film in the top 5 Carpenter movies. Or if it's not in the top 5, please don't be pigeonholed there, because I know there's probably it's probably about 5.
It's definitely top 10.
Fair enough.
But and probably top 7. But I mean, my number 1 is my number 1.
Yeah, now that I'm going through all the Carpenter movies, I'm like, wow, I didn't help you out there with that top 5 question.
I don't think there is a filmmaker, for me personally, that's harder to do a top 5 list than John Carpenter.
I agree.
Martin Scorsese said that he is the greatest genre filmmaker alive today. So
you can't disagree with that. Just look at what he's done.
He is.
He doesn't stick to one genre either. It's all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, he does do subgenre films.
He probably made, well, that's for another podcast, but he probably made one of the most faithful adaptation of Stephen King,
yes.
Which is really hard to do. But like I said, that's a completely other podcast. But I'll just say, I want to put this in the top 5, but now that I'm thinking about all the other movies, I don't know if I can do it. Top 10 for sure, like you said. I think right now, without naming the other ones, which is a really big cop-out, probably 6 or 7.
Yeah.
And maybe next show we'll have to, I don't know, give our rankings. But, yeah, I'm going to say 6 or 7 for Carpenter. But, it's a classic. It's something that I watch at least once a year.
Yeah, this is definitely an annual viewing for me. It's one of my... that's something we didn't talk about. So when you first saw this movie, how old were you?
I have no idea. I have no recollection. I usually can pinpoint when I watch something. I want to say this. I was at least in high school.
Yeah, I saw this when I was in high school too.
And it was definitely on television. I didn't rent it, and I didn't go to the movie for it. And I wasn't at a friend's house. It was probably me at 3 a.m. with Rhonda Shear or something.
Yeah, I did rent this when I was in high school. I was watching every John Carpenter movie I could find. And I wanted to, I watched this, and I was a punk kid growing up in the 90s. And this movie just really aligned with my worldview and was like a huge kind of influence on me and kind of I mean, it was just a wonderfully impactful movie for me. And did you have a similar reaction when you saw it? Or
I mean, it didn't change who I was.
Yeah,
I was already kind of an obnoxious
You're kind of like Roddy Piper in real life.
Yes. Hello.
Roddy Piper in the ring. So I've been drinking with you for a long time.
Yeah, you know me well. So you can probably...
No.
But all I can say is it was in that magical period of your youth when like good movies were coming out all the time, and this was just one of them. Yes. So I didn't honestly bat an eyelash at it when it came out. Did I like it? Yes. But this was at a time, it was the 80s, man.
Yeah.
Like movies, like iconic movies were coming out left and right. So did I really highlight this one? No. But it's one of those ones I really appreciated later on. I liked it at the time, don't get me wrong. But
it's a movie that I like.
It's underrated. It's underrated.
It is. And I actually enjoy this movie more as an adult than I did even as like a punk kid.
Yeah.
Like a punk teenager. I mean, this was
you can see through the symbolism a little bit more. It's not as much black and white.
Yeah, I don't know. You can see its influence on later films. I mean, there was like a direct film that they made in the 2000s. I think it was called Branded, where they did the subliminal messages again. And you can also see hints of that the alien invasion already happened. We lost. The world is controlled by artificial intelligence in the Matrix. So you can kind of see that message coming out every now and again.
All right, two things before we wrap up this podcast. Feels like it's coming to an end, right?
Yeah.
Number one, could they have at all adjusted this to be a sequel to The Thing? Hear me out. Instead of it was just random aliens, right? It's a piece of The Thing that makes it to the mainland. It's instead of, blue aliens, it's like the aliens are all the Thing, right? Like, even more of a, symbolism with Invasion of the Body Snatchers. I'm stretching with that one, but I still think they could have done that.
It theoretically could have, because
like everybody is a part of the Thing. Like they came to the United States. All these blue aliens are actually the Thing. I don't know. Just something I was thinking about. The other thing I wanted to say, I never get sick of 80s movies where guns don't run out of ammo. I know that's a simple thing, but I'm a simple man.
And there was like no scene where somebody had to be told to turn the safety off.
Guns is shot forever.
Yeah, they shot forever, and they, there was no explaining how the firearm worked or what they were firing.
Right.
All you know is that it was used to take out alien scum.
That's all you need to know.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that wraps this one up. Feel free to comment on this. Let me know what you think of the movie, think of the show, any shows you want to see us do. Feel free to like and subscribe.
Any compliments, send to Adam Backus. Any critiques or criticisms, please send to Paul.
Yes, that's fine. I love hate mail. So, anyways, from me and Adam,
here's to swimming with bow-legged women.
To a new world of gods and monsters. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next time.
And now, folks, it's time to say goodnight. We sincerely appreciate your patronage and hope we've succeeded in bringing you an enjoyable evening of entertainment. Please drive home carefully and come back again soon. Good night.